I read the comments from Coach Chip Kelly. I've talked to people inside the organization. This isn't a situation where Marcus Mariota has been handed the keys and he is going to be told go out and do whatever. And if he struggles, you will see Brian Bennett. And this isn't an open and closed case. Will Brian Bennett stick around? That's a bigger question. We'll take your phone calls on the Ducks. I've been charged by the Oregonian with coming up with a week-to-week forecast for the Ducks. Arkansas State all the way down to the end of the season. What will they do each week? I want you to tell me where you see the problems. Is there a game outside of USC that concerns you? Or what is the next biggest concern? Let's start with that. Aside from USC, because everybody can say, yeah, USC game's going to be tough for them. It's going to decide the Pac-12 conference. It'll decide their division. But, it'll decide probably who has home field. But aside from USC, what is it that concerns you about the Ducks season? 503-417-7575. I will take your phone calls there. Adam Jude will be joining us in the 5 o'clock hour. Again, maybe a little different perspective than Aaron Fenches. Fenches did a great job breaking the story, but Jude is on the ground in Eugene every day. And maybe he'll have a better answer for what happens to Brian Bennett. Maybe a little something more up to date. And for Beaver fan, I've got something for you in the 5 o'clock hour. The head coach of Nicholls State, Charlie Stubbs. So, I want to set up a little bit of the Lance Armstrong stuff that's coming up at 4 o'clock, but I don't want to get too in-depth with it. I'd rather talk Ducks right now, but when I look at the Lance Armstrong case, it is clear to me that he doesn't feel like fighting anymore. That's clear. He also probably doesn't feel like he's ever really going to clear his name. And I think at some point he's playing strategy here, as people do with plea bargains, and that he's saying it's just not worth me fighting this anymore because I can't come out of this looking good. Now you may read that Lance Armstrong quit. He threw in the towel. The guy beat cancer. The guy beat the government. Finally quit. They finally found a way to get Lance Armstrong to roll over. You may see it that way. I'm not quite seeing it that way. I do think there becomes a point where a guy who you have an opinion of, maybe you believe he cheated, maybe you believe he was clean, whatever the case may be, did your opinion get changed in the last 24 to 48 hours? And I will venture to say that no, that nobody's opinion probably got changed. Is there anybody out there who didn't think that Lance Armstrong cheated, who now believes, oh, he's a cheater? My mind has been changed by Lance throwing in the towel. Or is there somebody out there who says, you know what, this guy, I believe that he was a cheater, and by his, his willingness to say that this isn't worth fighting anymore, I have changed my mind as well. I just don't think that that's going to be the case for anyone. And I think a lot of people are reading too much into that and looking too hard at that and saying, that is part of this equation. So we'll talk about that coming up at 4 o'clock, and we'll get more in depth there. But as it comes to the Ducks, I see problems for this team that maybe the fan who is seeing the world through green glasses doesn't see. I don't think they get a test in the early part of the season, and I think they cruise into that home game against Arizona, untested game at home at Autzen Stadium, with some questions about who they are and did they learn anything in the first few weeks of the season. And I think that's going to be the biggest obstacle for the Ducks in the early part of the season. If that game wasn't at Autzen Stadium, I'd be more concerned about it, because I do think it feels like a little bit of a trap for Oregon, in that Arizona's got Rich Rodriguez, who taught Chip Kelly that spread offense as its coach. So I think they'll be well prepared. I think scheme-wise they'll be in great position. I just don't think he has good enough athletes. It's his first year. I think that there's going to be some growing pains for Rich Rodriguez, and the game's at Autzen Stadium. So I expect that game will be much closer than anybody anticipates. It'll obviously be the closest game of the season to that point for Oregon, but I don't think Arizona can win that game. The only other win, and I'm going to win the big one. And when I do that, I'm probably going to